Huge thank you to CIBC for making We Get It possible. Hello, everyone. My name is Karine. I'm the program director with Young Adult Cancer Canada, and I am thrilled to be with you tonight for another episode of We Get It. We Get It comes live on Facebook every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We have all our episodes kept on our YouTube channel. And yeah, we're happy to be here and working on transferring all of that beautiful content into a podcast. So we'll let you in on that soon. Today, once again, welcome to my home office that has not changed much since the last time. I am wearing a jean jacket today, which always makes me happy because since I started working from home, I do not get to wear my jean jackets as much. They're my favorite piece of clothing, Nadia. And so I'm wearing this hair down today because I showered just before recording this episode. So this is me, and I am today with Nadia Prando. I'm so glad for the connection. So Carolyn, this amazing yacker in our community, kind of really helped connect us with Nadia. So Nadia, thank you for being here. How about, so today, one of the many things we're going to talk about is touching on the importance of finding emotional support, psychosocial support, maybe tied into our culture a bit more, the language we speak, and a bunch of other things that are important to consider. But this is, I think, an important conversation that we want to have more and more. Experiences are different. People come from all different backgrounds, cultures, language. I'm Francophone. I was saying to Nadia before we started the recording, I went to therapy, and even though I was bilingual, I was tired at the end of those sessions. So I think these are things we need to take into account. So this is what we'll talk about together. But Nadia, first, let's start with a little intro. Who are you? And thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, Corinne. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm also actually from Brazil, also an immigrant here in Canada. I'm a therapist. I have over 10 years of experience as a therapist helping people. And I have my own also personal experience of being a cancer survivor. I got diagnosed when I was around 24 years old. It was a super fast diagnosed. I already had to go to surgery, had radiation. And for me, it was a different experience because my dad is a doctor. So he was the one that found out that I had it. So it was already a huge experience for him finding out that I had and that I had to do treatment. But also because he was a doctor, he went to the rational brain and said, okay, let's rationalize this. This is what we got to do, surgery and this, and that's it. And because he rationalized and my entire family rationalized, I didn't feel that I had the support that I needed at that point because they were just thinking, we're going to do this, everything's going to be fine. And I got to be with the shock of what do I do with this information? I just got the information that I have cancer and they're treating it as it's nothing. Go through it. And I was in shock. And so and when I noticed, oh, I'm alone and I'm in shock and I don't know what to do with that, I went to the internet. I need to find other people that are going through the same thing, that they have the same diagnosis, because I want to know how should I do? What should I do? How do I process this information? And it helped me a lot finding other people that were going through the same, finding groups that I could talk with them. And also my friends were not very supportive because they had all this idea that you're too young to have cancer. What are you talking about? They almost didn't believe it. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, it must be nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So not having support from many areas, and maybe because I was a therapist, I knew how important it was to have support. I said, if I don't have it, I'm not going to be able to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my effort of going back to my therapy, looking for groups where I could, and really, I found it was very helpful to connect with people that were going through the same thing because my friends weren't getting it. So I need to find other people that would offer me that support. Right.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
we were talking about the YACC Prime. I know for those of you who watch more than one episode, if we get it, I talk about Prime all the time. But one of the things that you're touching on, Nadia, is we have found that the young adults who felt a sense of connection to the young adult cancer community,
Mm-hmm.
they had like lower levels of distress, lower levels of body image distress. They had better coping skills,
Mm-hmm.
mechanism, better mental health, like significant things
Yeah.
that really getting support in a variety of ways, but one of them being connecting with your peers
Mm-hmm.
makes way more of a difference than we would think in
Yeah.
the overall kind of healing process that takes place when you get diagnosed with cancer.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the most important thing. We need to feel supported. Like we're all human beings with the need of, I need to feel loved. I need to feel part of something or a group. I need to feel worth it. And at that moment where you get the diagnosis, you only feel that you belong if you are with other people that are going through the same thing, right?
Hmm.
Because for me, you would imagine, oh, your dad is a doctor, so he's going to be able to help you and support you. And it actually was the reverse. Because he was a doctor and he was so shocked, he wasn't able to help me at all, right?
No.
So I had to go look for other things. And for me, at least when I was diagnosed and I went through treatment, I was back in my home country. I was in Brazil.
Okay.
So I had the cultural and my family and friends, and I had my therapist that would speak the same language as me, so it was easier.
Mm.
So I know that definitely being in a new country, being an immigrant, makes it even harder for you to go through all that. Because then you don't have the entire family, you don't have those friends, or maybe you're living here for many years and you already have a better support, but
Hmm.
maybe you still haven't found a mental health professional that speaks your language. And
Yeah.
that opens a lot of doors.
Because
Right?
cultural reference is important. Like often we talk when we talk about our young adult cancer community, which I know you can relate to, Nadia. We'll say often for a lot of the people in our community, when they get a diagnosis of cancer and they have to go into our healthcare system, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of their first experience often with the system. And
Yeah.
so they don't really have that knowledge and understanding of how it works. And then if you are coming from a different culture, you have a different language, this can really be a shocking, like shocking in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, like a shock kind of
Yeah.
experience, because all of a sudden you have to not only cope with the fact that you were diagnosed with cancer, which is traumatic enough and scary enough,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have to cope with trying to figure your way out in a healthcare system and then trying to process all of this
Mm-hmm.
with probably people around you, a medical team, and even psychosocial social support team that might not have no understanding of your culture, no
Mm-hmm.
knowledge of your language. And so I think most people, their reflexes, they're going to adapt, always themselves adapting to the system they're in. And it can be quite taxing on people. It can
Mm-hmm.
be really hard, right?
Yes, definitely. Because that brings your anxiety and your stress way up. Like, because part of it, you need the stress because you're trying to figure it out things. You're learning how things work. You're trying to understand everything. So that makes you be more stressed. But that also is going to impact on how you're dealing with everything because the stress is up, the anxiety is up. That makes it more difficult for you to process things.
Hmm.
For us to be able to process what is going on, we need to be with little levels of stress and anxiety. All
Hmm.
right. So, yeah, makes, and so knowing that maybe you have the possibility for, look, at least if you, I don't know if you're going to be able to have doctors that speak your language because that's more broader, but at least a mental health professional that comes from the same background, same culture and language, that is already a huge difference. And because when you go to therapy, then you don't feel that anxious that, am I going to be able to express myself? Am I going to be able to share what is really going out inside of me?
Hmm.
If it's a person that comes from the same background, you're going to feel, oh, I get it. It's going to be easy. I don't need to worry about it. One less thing I need to worry about.
Yes, and having to explain yourself because there are cultural differences and references, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to cancer. We've had conversations with some of our community members who would say, well, in my community or in my country or in my parents' uh,
Mm-hmm.
family, this is how they see disease or cancer. This is how
Yeah.
they connected with faith or a belief or and all of that. If you are getting emotional support, not that someone can't support you and help you if they're not coming from the
Mm-hmm.
same place, but I think to know that you can look and reach for that and find maybe someone who
Mm-hmm.
can relate, that's a lot less almost explanation of like, well,
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying is helpful, but this is not the conversation I have with my grandma or my parents.
Yeah.
They don't
Exactly.
understand it in the same way. And I think that's where it can really make a difference.
Yeah. Because and you want to feel that the other person is getting you. You want to hear that I get you, I feel you. And if there is a big difference about cultures and backgrounds, it can be hard for the other people to give that to you, that experience of I feel it, I get you. So it's much easier when it's a person that comes from the same culture and background or language, because that is one less thing you need to worry, and it increases the probability that the person is going to be able to tell you, I get it, I know, you don't even need to explain, I know, I already experienced that by myself. So
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I think sometimes when I talk to young adults, like I'm not a therapist, but I'm a social worker, this is my background. And if I
mm-hmm,
talk to young adults, I think, I would hope, provide a lot of support and guidance and even sense of understanding and belonging when it comes to young adults' issues. I've been working
mm-hmm,
in that field for 15 years. I talk with young adults every day. So there is a realm of things I can provide,
mm-hmm,
but there is definitely a limit. I would
mm-hmm,
never, of course, if I'm talking to a francophone from Quebec, who has a background of maybe Catholic, upbringing, and
yeah,
I would relate very well with a
mm-hmm,
lot of what that person would share. But there are limits. So you work with that was really cool. So you are at New Leaf Psychology,
yeah,
correct?
yeah. And
So
also I'm a specialist at PsyMood. PsyMood is the new platform that is helping connect patients with mental health professionals that come from the same background, same culture. And that is amazing. When they told me that they were doing that, I said, I want to be part of that, because I
yeah,
know many people that have uh, just given up of searching for therapy because they said, I'm not going to be able to express myself.
no,
And even though I feel that I need therapy right now, I'm not going to look because nobody's going to be able to help me because they don't speak the same language, because I don't know how to express myself in a different language. So I was very excited to say, yes, finally, we're going to help this, and we're going to be able to offer the support for people that have been waiting for years or already gave up or searching for it.
it is really neat. So I'll put the information up
Yeah.
so people can see it. But I went on the site and you can actually, like, you can select based on what you're looking for, the language you speak, the culture. It is
Yeah.
amazing. Like, to me, I was so happy to know this existed, this
Yeah.
type of service. So let's say, so I know you and I, before recording, we were talking about all all the times and moments where it's really
Mhm.
important to get support. Can you talk a little bit about that
Yeah.
from treatment to during to all
Yes.
of that?
Yeah. I think uh, when you have the diagnosis, that's when usually you're gonna look for support around family and friends. Usually, it's our first go-to, right? And if that moment you already realize that, oh, they're not understanding, they're not offering me the help that I need, so maybe that's the time to look for professional help or groups
Mhm.
or like places where you feel that, well, they're going to be able to help me somehow. So during treatment, also, that's a moment where you need the support. And that's where I would uh, probably people prefer to have more contact with other people that have the same diagnosis or going through treatment, because that's when we can exchange some
Mhm.
experience, like, oh, I'm feeling this way through the treatment, did you feel this way, is it the right way? We never know, so we're always wondering, am I supposed to be feeling this way, is this supposed to be happening to my body? So a lot of change that go through treatment, right?
Mhm.
Treatment, we're always happy that we have treatment, but also the cancer treatment can be very hard on our body. So
Yeah.
we suffer the consequences of treatment. And we think that, oh, once we did the treatment and they say, oh, you're done, from now on, you just need to do the follow ups. So people, family, people that haven't had cancer before usually say, that's it, you're you're done,
You're good to
you
go.
don't need to worry about anything else, you, let's just forget about this horrible experience and let's go. And actually not, because your life has changed completely. You don't see the world the same way you saw before. Your life perspective changed, your body changed because of the consequences of treatment. And now you are alone again, having to deal with all this change, having to figure it out, how the consequences of treatment are going to interfere your life, if you are going to be able to do things that you used to do before, or if actually the consequences are not allowing you to go back to the same work, to do the things that you used to do. You're there and you have to figure it out. How am I going to process all this? It's a it's a transformation in your life, and you need the support. So if you if you can think about of when should I need the support, I would say through diagnose, treatment, and post. But if you want to choose, like, oh, I don't want to spend money, or I don't want to do a long treatment, at least I would say before after the treatment,
Mhm.
because that is when you have to you demand a lot of energy and effort for you to get used to this new life and this new body that you have. So
Mhm.
that is important to have this support to help you navigate and find out who is your new you,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, the people sometimes talk of the new normal, and as you speak of those phases, like I think for most people, I know it's different depending on the city and where people are treated, but I think for most people, when they get diagnosed and during treatment, they don't always know, but they technically can have access to a social worker or psychologist within the cancer
Mm-hmm.
care team at your hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and you can kind of benefit from that, which is not going to be the same as having a therapist or a support person who has all the connections with culture and language. But during things, we know a lot of our community members will say, well, when I was in treatment, I was in full survival mode. All I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to do was to do these treatment, get through it, get through my radiation, finish that, surgery.
Yeah.
After, for a lot of people, so for some of our community members, there's no really any after in the sense that they stay in treatment long term, and
Mm-hmm.
that's their reality. But there are quite a few people who eventually, yeah, treatment ends, and then they're kind of released, like you said, out into
Mm-hmm.
nature, and it's kind of good luck in some ways. And we do say it takes longer to recover from cancer than to be treated for it. You've heard me say that, I'm sure, on
Mm-hmm.
these episodes. And this is a lot of the time where our the social worker at the hospital might not be someone people can keep seeing as regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, they find themselves back home. So then all of a sudden you're back with all the pressure of everybody who loves you and who wants you to be well, but who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't quite get it. And you have to cope with often a lot of emotions and anxiety and distress. And this is what we're seeing. So if you're a young adult and you've been diagnosed with cancer and you're done treatment and you're struggling and you're thinking, I'm doing something wrong, we can reassure them right now, no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Getting help would probably make a difference, but you are like the majority of your peers. People struggle after treatment, and often it is more an emotional struggle. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, yes, there are physical side effects from treatment and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
that also will go and play with your mind and your head
Yeah,
because you won't be able to do as much as you used to. And so
yeah,
you question your capacity. So that's where getting proper support can really make a difference.
yeah. And even after treatment, there's always the follow-ups,
Mhm.
right? So you're never completely uh, free of the fear of having cancer again. So the anxiety is always going to be there. Oh, I'm going to have to do the exam. It's been a year and I have to do the exam again to see if there's anything else. So the
Mhm.
fear is always going to be there. So the anxiety is going to be your partner from
Yeah.
now on. So it's good to have some support to help you deal with that anxiety so that it doesn't get to the point where you're not being able to do the things that you want to do because anxiety or depression are limiting you.
Hmm. Yeah. Which they can, yeah, they can be, they can be limiting for sure. In
Yeah.
some of the points we had, one of the things that I thought was something that definitely is something our community members go through. There was something about communication with family, friends, and supporters
Mhm.
in that. And I was interested to know within your role and what you would have to say
Mhm.
about that, because we know our surroundings are important, can have a very positive effect
Mhm.
or not so much.
Yeah. And and as I was saying, because we are all human beings and we have this need to feel that we are understood, that there is connection, even when we're going through traumatizing things like having being diagnosed with cancer, we're still looking for that in our family, in our peers. Like, do you get me? Do you get what I'm going through? I'm so scared that I may die. I'm so scared that my life is ending and I'm young and I still had so many dreams and plans. So, are you getting that I'm panicking about that? And usually, people that didn't go through that, that didn't had a huge trauma in their lives, they have a hard time
Mhm.
being able to connect because I haven't gone through that, so I don't know how to connect with you. I can't say that I feel you, that I get you, because I don't.
Mhm.
Right? So it's really hard for us in that moment to be able to feel that connection. And sometimes if we try and we feel that the people around us are not getting, we tend to give up. Oh, they don't get me. So I'm just going to isolate myself. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to stop sharing.
Mhm.
And that really affects our mental health. When we start isolating ourselves and giving up, that's when the depression is going to start increasing. And that is going to be bad for you in the long term. So, if you're not getting the support that you need, the connection that you need from family, friends, and as I said, it's time to look someplace else.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to be able to offer you that. And it's important to be able to have that conversation, to talk about the experience. The things become a trauma when we don't process, when we don't talk about it. Because, and usually we don't do it, we don't process it because we don't have the strategies or the skills to do so. So it becomes a trauma that is locked in our mind and it's there,
Mhm.
just waiting for you to have the skills to process it. And the more that we talk, the more that we share with people, the higher our probability for us to just have that click of, oh, I just realized something right now. And
Yeah.
that helps us. So, really forcing yourself to talk about it, even though you feel people are not understanding you, they don't get it, look for other places because it's important for your mental health. And if you have a good mental health during treatment, it is going to affect how you heal from the cancer also, right?
Hmm.
We already have research showing that if you have a good mental health, the prognosis can be better than if you don't. It's going to help you throughout. And I understand that most people, when they are diagnosed and going through treatment, they're only on survival mode. And on survival mode, we don't take in account all of this that I'm saying. We're just focused on like, tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. If there's surgery, if it's radiation, just tell me and I'll do it. And we're focused on that. But even when we're focused on that, we need to be able to talk about that. Like I'm
Yeah.
focused on days and I'm worried about the practical things that I need to do. I'm worried about myself. So at least having the opportunity to talk about this.
Yes. I'm curious, have you had instances where you worked with, let's say, cancer survivor, but also helped with the family to
Yeah.
have like sessions or conversations or ways to help? Have you had
Yeah.
that?
I haven't had that experience, but it would definitely something that I would do because
Mhm.
the clients that I worked were uh, older people that didn't have anymore the
Right.
parents to be around. But it but working with young adults, it's something that I would definitely do. Like bring the family. Let's see if we can put everybody here to try to support this communication because there's something that you're not getting and when we don't feel validated that all family don't get me, you don't want just the person to leave the house and run away. Like you
No.
don't get me, so I'm gonna get out of here. And
Yeah.
so we want to continue having a family because even though they are not getting you through that specific experience, they can get you on other experience. They will be
Mhm.
there for you. So just don't give up on that.
Yes, I can see because we have some of our community members who are a bit in the older young adult years, so their
Hmm.
families are less involved, even though
Yeah.
parents, I think, are still going to definitely go through something. But we have some of our community members who are younger and definitely have a much closer relationship and involvement of their family. And when there
Hmm.
are difficulty understanding, and even some of our community members, like their parents might not speak English, so
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
kind of for them, it's this really disconnection to what's going on because they can't even interact with the healthcare. Um,
Hmm.
so I think
Yeah.
there are, multi layers that can be faced by some of our community members with
Yeah.
parents who are just, you know, immigrants and might or might not speak. Um,
Yeah. So they might not even be understanding the what is going on. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think I don't want to presume, but I feel like sometimes, because, like you said, even for your experience, sometimes things go really fast. People get diagnosed, treatment plans, things go fast. And there's not
Hmm.
always a time and the hindsight and moment where people can pause and say, we're working with someone who is, daughter of an immigrant family who doesn't, understand English as well. Sometimes there's no time that is
Yeah.
taken by the care team to make sure that, because I think you've said it well, as much as we can do from the moment of diagnosis to
Hmm.
help and support and put in place tools to help the person, the better we can think
Outcome.
it,
Hmm.
the outcome, the even the road, which is hard enough.
Yeah.
But we were talking about, what is ideal path, or is there an ideal path? And I think there's a lot of focus in our healthcare system on the medical, on the
Hmm.
treatment.
Yeah.
Treatments are important, don't get me wrong, but I
Hmm.
think there's this whole spectrum, which is what you're talking about, that doesn't get always as much emphasis, which is the emotional and psychosocial
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Take care of
Yeah.
that throughout.
Exactly. And I feel that because we're talking about cancer, that we focus on treatment, and most people only focus on that. Oh, cancer, go to the hospital, you need a doctor, you need medical assistance. Focus on your body. And then what about my mental health? What
Mhm.
about how I am experiencing it inside, not all about the physical body, but my mentality? What do
Mhm.
I do with that? Do I just put a hold on it and go through all this? And then after, I'll open again to talk about my emotions? We can't do that. We're not robots. The emotional part is always going to be there with you.
Mhm.
And and it's hard because this big part of the treatment is all about doctors, and we're on the road of being more, of having more conversations between doctors and mental health professionals, because I think we, in the past, we were more about just physical, physical, physical. Now we're opening more the doors to talk about mental health and realize that it's part of us. We can't just ignore it, like our grandparents used to say, don't cry, or don't feel it, that's
Don't
nothing,
think about it.
don't think about it.
Are you
So
supposed not to do that?
yeah, now we're actually realizing that the emotions and our uh, mind is totally connected to our physical body. So we need to take care of both. And
Mhm.
when we're able to take care of both, we have better results. We feel better. We feel that we are being supported all the way and not only the physical part.
Mhm. Absolutely. A couple of, I'm looking at the time, but a couple of things I wanted to touch on. So one of the thing you mentioned, so in our community, we've had different levels of conversations about, how people are sometimes told or fed these one-liners of think positive and this kind of toxic positivity that some conversations people are having is like, it's not that I'm not being positive. I'm just going through a hard day. And so
Mhm.
becoming more aware of our mental health, our mindset. So you were talking a little bit about the power of mindset and its ability to help us through tough times.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate a little bit about that? Because you're
Yeah.
not talking about stay positive, you're talking
No.
about something way more complex than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And and so the mindset is basically how you're thinking right now. We usually say that there is a emotional mind and a rational mind, and the best is for us to be, have those connected
Mhm.
and think through both. So when I'm making decisions, I'm taking on account the rational part. I did my pros and cons list, but I'm also taking on account how I feel about that. So if I did the pros and cons and say, oh, this is the best decision, but emotionally I'm not, no, 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 don't do that. So I need to take that in account and
Mhm.
not just go over it and I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
So our mindset, when we're going through hard times, it needs to be that also. We can't just rationalize and all of, like my parents did, let's rationalize, you need to surgery, do that, okay, bye, thank you, that's it.
Mm.
And you left me all alone with my emotional part, and that is not helpful. So we need to connect both of them. And so if we are able to pay attention to what the doctors are telling us. So this is your diagnosis, this is your prognostic, this is the treatment, this is what we suggest. Okay, the doctors know better. We're going to go with their rationality of
Mhm.
treatment. But also, I need to bring my emotional part. And the first thing that happens when you get the diagnosis is the shock, is
Mhm.
the fear, the anxiety. So I need to take that in account. I'm feeling anxious, I'm afraid, and I want to talk about this.
Mhm.
So I'm only going to be able to put my mind in a positive way, saying, okay, I got my information and I'm feeling scared. And now I'm want to try to think about that I'm going to be able to handle it. I'm going to survive it. But to be able to have this positive mindset, I need to first be able to talk about my fear, my anxiety, how I'm worried about that. If I'm not being able to talk about what I'm experiencing right now, then I'm not going to be able to think positive about it because I'm still with my fear all here inside of myself bubbling up, and I'm not being able to share it. So I'm not going to be able to think positive. So there's need to be space to think about the rational part and the emotional part. And then we can take strategies of meditation, visualizations to help us. So we already have proved that when we visualize, so before going to surgery, we visualize us. I'm visualizing myself in the bed, having the anesthesia, going through the surgery, and I'm imagining myself, my body recovering from that. When I do practice like this, the outcomes are better because then I'm going through to the surgery with a mindset that, okay, I can do this. I will handle it. But before that, I went to someone and talked about my emotions. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it so does. I love this because I love the rational and emotional, and you're so right. I think sometimes we are forced almost or asked to go one way or the other, where
Mhm.
it's not separate. And
Exactly.
I think yes to, and anyone who's listening wants to help someone, you know, a young adult with cancer, and you're a friend or a sibling, and you want to be there. It is not always helpful to shush the darker
Mhm.
parts of cancer, to, like you just expressed so nicely, like to get to a place where we can get some clarity on what's going to make sense for decisions and choices. And you need to be allowed to go to the places that are hard. Sometimes
Mhm.
it is, and hopefully can be with a therapist. But
Mhm.
even with people close to you, if you want to help someone and they're actually feeling safe enough with you to open up about their fears, if you can, hold space for them while they do that,
Mhm.
and go somewhere else to figure out how you deal with the fact that you've received that. Ask someone else to help you
Yeah.
with that. But I think you're so right, because I think
Yeah.
that's where then the rational and emotional parts can find okay. Because if we go about a certain way with so much stress and fear because we didn't allow our emotions to even be expressed,
Mhm.
it's going to be hard, or
Yeah.
harder anyways.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And just as you were saying about family, peers, friends, allowing that space to talk with young adults that are being diagnosed with cancer, like you don't need to do much. All we need is to be validated. So you can just listen, and at the end you can just say, yeah, it's hard for you.
Mm.
You're afraid and you're worried, and I get you. Just this validation that what we're feeling makes sense. Like it
Mhm.
makes sense that you're afraid, that you're worried. You've just been diagnosed. It is scary.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's all we need. We don't want people to problem solve and gives us, oh, you should fix this problem like this. We don't want that. We just want to be validated. Like, I get you. It makes sense that you're feeling this way. That's
Mhm.
it. Right. So
Yes, that's a good takeaway. And I know people are going to wonder, so I'll ask you before we wrap up. So if someone is listening and thinking, ooh, I would like to see if I can find a therapist through PsyMood,
PsyMood, yeah.
PsyMood, specialist, if so they can go to the website. But is there, like, I know people are going to ask like pricing and all of that. I guess all of this information can be found there.
In the website, yes.
Yeah.
It's better for them to go and look through the website for those information. You're going to register yourself, give your information, and they have the prices.
Okay. And
Yeah,
I'm sure
I
like
don't know
your
more.
insurance in there and all kinds of ways. And hey, I know that for some of our community members, financially, it is not an option right now to go to something private. But I hope
Mhm.
that our conversation today validated the fact that, yeah, maybe
Mhm.
it can be a goal for someone to say, well, ultimately, if I can't do it right now, eventually I want
Mhm.
to work towards finding a therapist that speaks my language,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
understands my culture, that understands cancer. like young
Mhm.
adult cancer, that's a bonus. Like whoever's going to get
Yeah.
you, Nadia, they're lucky. But ultimately, maybe it can just be a goal that you work towards if
Hmm.
having a therapist right now is not a possibility financially.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it
And
exists.
if you don't have the possibility of doing individual, at least look for support groups.
Mhm.
I know there are a lot of support groups for people that are treating cancer, to deal with the consequences, all of that. There are groups where you can just be part of it. So
Yeah.
go after it.
To
It's going to be
join.
helpful. Yeah.
Yes. And of course, I'll speak for, YACC, but of course, in Adult Cancer Canada, if you don't know, you can check our website. We have a way for you to get connected. We have a giant Facebook group that is private only with young adults with cancer. In there, you can ask questions. It is, to your point, it is a wealth of information because you have 1,300 young adults from everywhere in the country with all types of diagnosis, stages, phases of cancer, have gone through all kinds of treatments. So sometimes if you're wondering, is this normal? What's going on? You can actually go in that space, ask questions, and meet and connect with people who get it, which I think
Mhm.
ultimately makes a big difference. And then, hey, if you are in a place where you feel like additional therapy could really help you, which I think it really can, I would definitely encourage you to check PsyMood. So I'll put the information, check it out and see, especially if you want to look for someone who is within your culture, language, and have this understanding of those intersections. Thank you so much, Nadia, for
Thank you.
joining me today and having this great chat. It was quite lovely.
Yeah, I
And
really
so
enjoyed
hopefully,
too.
yeah, so it was
Yes,
nice.
thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully, for everyone, it was interesting and it brought you something. And as I remind all of us every Monday, just breathe. Never, ever, ever underestimate the power of our breath to bring us back in the present moment when things are hard, when things are good. Just breathe. Remember that. Do it as often as you can throughout the day. Breathing, we hope you do it all day, but to stop and pause and take a deep breath, I encourage
Yeah,
you to do that. And so have a great rest of the day wherever you are. And I hope you can join us next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. Thank you. Have a good week.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.